So we're here to talk today about the Boston bombings, news coverage, 24/7 wall-to-wall news coverage, the role that social media played. Matt, I know you've got some pretty strong feelings, anti-Twitter feelings, that you'd like to share with the world. This is your platform.
Thank you for the platform. Thank you.
And by the way, I disagree with you before you even speak, but go ahead.
That's natural.
Yeah.
Comes with the territory.
Yeah.
My concern is that if you're a PR pro and you've got a Twitter strategy, you've got to think really hard about that right now, because my take is that Twitter lost a tremendous amount of credibility as a legitimate communications platform during the Boston bombings. So many mistakes, so much misinformation, rush to judgment. You had people confusing Chechnya with the Czech Republic.
Right, both are in the state of New Jersey, so I never had that problem. But I would argue that the media lost just as much credibility as Twitter itself did, because the media were making just as many mistakes. I think what we did see, which was interesting, was the rise of superior print journalism as the go-to source for reliable information, which I found refreshing. And I do think for public relations, it's definitely a warning and an opportunity to be sure that what you send is authentic and truthful. And I think that's a great learning lesson coming out of Boston.
But what does it say that it really took a few days, several days after the incidents took place for the truth to come out? In that it took, you're right, the print reporters to really sift through all the information, but you were not getting accurate information either from social media and non-journalistic sources or the mainstream media, certainly in the heat of the moment, but even in the immediate aftermath of the incident.
Well, I think a lot of it obviously is the ratings war, and the ratings war forces journalists, and you're a former journalist, so I'd be interested in your point of view on this, but obviously journalists are taught to always have a second source before they ever report anything, and I'm guessing that a lot of second sourcing went out the window during the Boston
Yes, you raise a great point, and I think the pressure on PR pros just went up exponentially because of this. So what you have now is you have journalists competing with anybody with a Twitter account, and they are literally live tweeting. So imagine if you've got a room full of journalists at a press conference. They're not going to sit there and sit through their notes for an hour and write it up. They're going to be live tweeting that press conference. You make mistakes, you make errors, it's going out.
But what do you expect? Listen, I'm not condoning it, but what do you expect the mainstream media to do? You know, they're running 24/7 wall-to-wall coverage of probably the biggest news event of the year, certainly to date, and perhaps all year. So do you expect them to just sort of shelve the story until they can confirm their sources, especially on broadcast? I mean, they've got to fill that airtime, and they're filling it by having the cameras rolling and capturing whatever sound and pictures they can as soon as they can.
I think we're going to see a rise in soap operas. I think soap operas are going to come back, because you just hit the nail on the head.
That is the most...
Obviously, obviously I'm wrong, but you're right. I mean, live television news is dependent upon Twitter for breaking news, and none of it's verified. So why even have breaking developments if you can't second source?
Well, why even have...
Why are we even having this discussion?
What would you be tweeting?
Why am I here right now? Why even have field reporters? Why not just rely on citizen journalists then? You know, if you're going to take that position.
I'm not taking any position. Obviously, trained journalists perform a function. They do cover. Obviously, they're on battlefields. They're in war zones. So, and Boston was a war zone. So, in one sense, they were competent, trained professional journalists there to cover a story. Unfortunately, what didn't happen during the Civil War, World War I, World War II, Vietnam, Twitter wasn't around to totally preempt their ability to report live from the field.
Right. Well, I think the problem that we're going to see now is that you are going to have competent, trained journalists competing with tweeters. Con-tweeting, if you will.
Interesting. Con-tweeting.
Just make that up.
I did. Thank you.
Con-tweeting.
Thank you. So.
Or come-tweeting. Come-tweeting with each other.
Could be.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So, is this a trend that's here to stay?
No question.
Of course.
Or will the journalists ever be able to take this back?
No. No. It's out of the box. It's out of the box. More and more people are getting their kicks by being the person to be there when something happens.
It's not just that, because I think that's human nature, if you will. But as the more and more people get mobile devices, as more and more people connect those mobile devices over the web, of course this trend is going to grow. I mean, we've only scratched the surface on this. So I think this is not only a trend that's here to stay, but I just don't know what the answer is. If you're a mainstream journalist or mainstream publication or mainstream broadcast outlet, what do you do about it? I think you embrace it. I think you go with it because it's your viewers that are out there on the front lines of these stories.
That's interesting. It's a conundrum.
It's not a conundrum. In my opinion, it's not a conundrum. In my opinion, it's a great opportunity for these brands, these media brands, to interact and create stronger relationships with their viewers.
It's interesting. I wonder if they could have both a live Twitter feed and also a delayed one that provides more analysis. So it's kind of like two levels.
Well, I don't think. I think the average viewer of CNN or any of the broadcast outlets, for that standpoint, don't turn on that channel for analysis. They want
breaking news. The point is, so many people didn't even turn on the TVs this time. They went directly to their mobile devices.
Right.
That's the conundrum.
Right. I read that the other day. My concern, though, is that for a lot of corporate clients, is that really the audience you want? Mm-hmm. My concern is that Twitter has now become for people that have the attention span of a fruit fly. Mm-hmm. And it's all about what can I get.
It's good for this guy.
It's perfect for him.
I aspire to have the attention span of a fruit fly.
But in your Twitter strategy, is that the audience you really want? They're going to read your tweet and move on to the next one.
Depends upon the brand, Matt.
Depends upon the brand.
Depends upon the brand.
Yeah.
For Peppercomm, I would say yes. That's the audience we want.
That's exactly who we want. You're right.
Well, we can talk about this all day.
We could tweet about it all night.
Everyone who's been watching this,
they've already fallen asleep.
They've gone to their Twitter feed.
They're tweeting about it right now.
So we should sign off.
I will sign off by saying thanks for watching.